Looking at Saudi then in particular, and I'll go into a bit more detail. As I mentioned, the PDPL there issued a couple of years ago, end of 2021. There were some concerns when it was first issued about the level of oversight and sort of restrictive control being applied by the regulator, in particular on data transfers. Essentially, if you read through there was a mechanism, but essentially you'd have to get approval for every data transfer from the authority on a case-by-case basis. So lots of people thought that was difficult, unworkable, ridiculous, whatever terms you want to use. And they told the regulator, we think it's ridiculous, unworkable. So the regulator had a bit of a rethink, prompted by other parts of the government who were pushing for a more business-friendly environment in Saudi Arabia. That law didn't actually they didn't get the message when they were drafting that law. So they were prompted, if you like. Not sure how much of a stick was used there, but anyway, they changed the law. They issued some amendments that were published a couple of months ago in March this year. Those amendments have really been helpful in sort of creating a more business-friendly data transfer mechanism. They have introduced legitimate interests as a ground for processing that wasn't included previously. And we've seen that in a few jurisdictions in the region where they will have your usual sort of legal basis for processing of performance of a contract, etc. But they have a few of them have missed out legitimate interests or not thought it relevant to include, which becomes quite difficult as data protection lawyers used to relying on that particular legal basis when none of the others seem to particularly fit. So been reintroduced into the Saudi regulation, which is important. They've reduced the criminal offences. One of the other concerns about this law when it was first published was there were a couple of criminal offences, potentially leading to imprisonment sanctions for people that breach them. That's now been reduced to one, so relating to sensitive data offences. I don't think it's a particular one that people need to particularly worry about day to day, and I don't think it will target, let's say, the DPOs or the managers on the ground if there is a sort of corporate data breach type events. I think it's more about dealing with individuals who are sort of bad actors, really, and that's our understanding of that particular offence. And a couple of other changes there that I've mentioned there. I think one of the key bits of clarity that these new amendments introduced was on the timeline. So, as I said, the first law was issued in 21, and it talked about a timeline which looked like it would become effective in March, the following March 22, and then be with a grace period of 1 year, which would have meant March 23, March of this year. There was a bit of confusion in the sort of weeks leading up to March this year because no further announcement had been made, and people were saying, well, does this law become effective? What's the date? And even within government, there was some confusion. I've seen notices being issued by certain authorities talking about a 17th of March date for when a law became effective, which isn't the case. The amendments have now made clear that the law becomes effective 720 days after it was first published, which was 2021. So that 720 days will be up on the 14th of September this year. And then there is that 12-month grace period that starts, so 12 months to become compliant. Like Oman, there are regulations that are required under the law. It's a common sort of structure of legislation in the Middle East, where you have a law, then you have regulations underneath. Those regulations haven't yet been issued. They're expected to be, they're due to be issued by September this year. So that will hopefully give us the full picture in Saudi. Looks a lot better, and as I say, it's more in line with the sort of the general theme of the government, which is about attracting new business and new investment into the country as part of quite significant social and cultural changes that are going on there.